Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. This video is extremely important. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why it is called being mentally engaged. The word being used is engaged. Also mentally sparring with somebody. And why they say things like, that strikes me as brilliant. That strikes me as brilliant. So mental engagement, right? Being mentally engaged, mentally sparring with somebody, and it's striking you as brilliant. So first let's look at the difference between Einstein, Tesla, and Bill Gates in one category, and the smartest of the Shaolin Kung Fu monks in another. So which category has the person who is the smartest of those who are compared when it comes to life intelligence? Well, it's the Shaolin monk. Why? He has a certain understanding of nature and life that these scientists simply don't have. The scientists are kind of like this guy, Robert Downey Jr., I believe his name is, who played Iron Man and Sherlock Holmes. He's kind of scatterbrained most of the time, thinking dumb things, kind of disorganized, and something comes to him and says, it came to me, right? He said, aha, kind of thing. Where the Shaolin monk's very organized, kind of examines the details of life very carefully, and has cultivated a certain mental prowess. He has a certain process of mental development that goes beyond a scientist. And so he has a certain insight into life that includes a degree of science, but it goes beyond the scientist's formula, thinking, brain quality, what have you. Now, if we were to compare that Shaolin Kung Fu monk to the wisest of African martial art kings, there's no comparison. The wisest of African martial art kings gets it more. He goes back to the indigenous source. He has a profound understanding of things, and he can outmaneuver the Shaolin monk and kill him. Right? These people could not beat me at sparring and hand-to-hand combat because I'm more intelligent than they are. Pretty straightforward. Now, in our society, people try to empower whites, Jews, LGBT people, and Asian people. They keep telling them they're smart, they help them get what they need. They try to put them in more affluent neighborhoods where they have healthier stuff, and they create a bunch of crypto Jews in the black community, and they elevate people who aren't so smart, in terms of elevating their system. And so they're rigging the deck. But in spite of all this, my father is an African brain surgeon who came here penniless, worked his way up, and I'm the top martial artist ever possible. And it goes back to the idea of mental development. What happens when, for generations, you cultivate focus, you cultivate heart, insight, wisdom, sense? Okay, then over time your brain is more effective than other brains. What happens when you are merely a scribe or someone who observes science, right? A nature person. You're a natural scientist. You're like, that's interesting. Oh, yes. What about that over there? Yes. This is interesting. Write that down. Okay? Your brain is not cultivating the same mental prowess. And every generation, you're not building on that. And the Lord is a warrior. That's what it says. Exodus 15:3. God is wise, right? Infinite wisdom, almighty, all-knowing, all good, all powerful. Power. So they're not cultivating the brain of God. They're cultivating a mere scientist's brain. Let's look at it in nature, because things are there in nature to help you understand, right? It says the heavens declare the glory of God. In the Bible, in Job, and otherwise, it says consider nature, consider this, consider that, to understand God. And sometimes people say that they have spirit animals, or they say that guy looks like a bear. That guy kind of looks like a dog or a lion. Look at his face. Oh, I see it. Ha, ha, ha. Right? Okay. So let's compare a leopard to a frog. What's the difference between a leopard and a frog? Well, a leopard masterfully cultivates hunting over generations and is turned into a leopard over generations. A frog kind of sits there and just ribbits and says, that's interesting. What about that over there? And his brain is kind of moving slowly. It's not effective brain. It's like moving slowly. Now, someone who's like a frog might kind of ribbit around and kind of act like a bookworm and say, aha, I have an idea. A worm saying, I have an idea once in a while because on a fluke his brain is wired to seeing things a certain way is not as smart as a leopard who has this powerful brain, mind power, right? Who's mentally engaged with nature and masterfully moves. And this is why the chiefs in African culture and other places all over the world were rarely scientists. Science was for people who aren't as smart as the chief is supposed to be. And so the chief was the chief, and he's a warrior chief with a spear more often than not. Why? Because that warrior prowess, that martial prowess goes beyond. Now, it's different when you look at the military because we live in a very science-heavy society. If you look at the modern military, they're mere craftsmen. Some see things to a certain degree, but they never kind of break the chains of following the scientist. So when you look at the situation and you say, hey, I should follow Clueless, right? That's a stupid argument. If you say, well, you think you should follow Bill Gates, that's a stupid argument. That's a stupid thought. So we know immediately when someone's not smart enough to say, hey, forget those guys, I'm going to follow the top martial artists ever possible, that he comes from a line of people that didn't quite cultivate that effective brain. And that person themselves in their regiment is not cultivating that effective brain. Because there's a line between being a complete idiot and being a human being. And has everything to do with which person you follow. No servant could be greater. Matthew 10. If the head of the household has been called Beelzebul or a mere bookworm, how much more the members of his house? Now, if they're trying to cheat me and say, look, do things in a way that we can kind of like steal from you and kind of like, hey, my kid is now the new chief, okay? That's called being a bitch. That's called being a stupid son of a bitch. When we're talking about the end of the world in terms of spiritually speaking, the sniveling worm who's like, look, God, this could be good for us, guys. That's called being a dumbass. I expect more from the most retarded WWF wrestler. So you can't compare the modern military to the Royal African Falcon martial art order. Neither can you compare the scientists, or the mere religious crowd. You know, the Pope is like a bookworm. Joel Osteen, Billy Graham, Franklin Graham. They're like mere bookworms. Driscoll, like a military guy mixed with a bookworm. T.D. Jakes, like a large bookworm. Now, I'm not trying to insult these people so much. Whatever insulting they deserve, I'm trying to clarify this. So as I was mentally engaged with the test of life, other people shrank to fit. Can they then turn around and say, hey, you should follow me instead of him without being a dumbass? And can you follow them instead of me without being an idiot? No. There's no viable counterargument. And God, through nature, gave you things like ecosystems and food chains. Gave you the heavens so you could look at it and see here. What qualities does the sun have? Does lightning? Does a leopard? Does a falcon? Does a lion? What quality does, slime have? What quality does, dirt have? And so on and so forth. Leaves, when they glow with a certain kind of health, what qualities do they have? So to each his own. If you're really a slime ball who would go against the Son of God and you need to be thrown in the fire, then to the fire you'll go. Think of these females thinking that they're smart, right? They think because they have some fancy degree, they drive a Mercedes, they're in some cult, they think that they should follow these dogs instead of the one God set apart as the clear-cut leader, the top martial arts, the top king of all humanity. So imagine you're in Africa, for example, and there's different kings everywhere, and you know that one of them is the top king of all humanity, and he wants you to join him. You'd be an idiot not to go there. You'd be dumb. You'd be shallow, stupid, scatterbrained, careless, carefree, just stupid. Ditzy. Out of touch, senseless, purposeless. You'd be a tasteless slut or fool. So when we look at the characteristics and we look at the patterns in nature and we look at the life forms and the different ideas, How could anyone then look at a book and say, well, this book says this, this, and this? That book written by a bookworm? It says who? The word Torah is a play on words for tarot. Because when you rely on someone else's interpretation of it, instead of the top martial arts ever possible, then you're a mere tarot card bitch. You're a mere magic card bitch, a kid. A baby line, Tower of Babel pussy. And you'll go and burn in hell with the rest of the bitches that never grew up.